am calling the December 9 WSESD meeting to order. This meeting is a hybrid meeting, which means that some or all of the public body is meeting remotely, and some are meeting physically in a previously noticed location where the public may attend to observe, listen, and participate contemporaneously. Please note that while we will strive to provide means for those attending remotely to participate in the public comment period, there may be technical difficulties or reasons that otherwise prevent or interrupt remote public participation. Therefore, it is important to note that open meeting law only ensures the public's right to participate and comment at a public meeting by attending at the designated physical location as posted in the notice and the agenda. If anyone has difficulty connecting, please let one of us know in this room via text or email. We will do our very best to reconnect you. Regarding the consent agenda, does that meet with everyone's approval or any changes to it? If there are any changes, let's do it now so that we can do the consent agenda in one motion. Ruby?
I believe it was the minutes that I reviewed for this meeting. There was, in the summary, Aaron Walsh was his resignation from Putney Central School. You have to add the word Central School. It says Putney School.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you. Anything else?
Also in the minutes for the Guilford leadership was set to 12:10 a.m., but it should be p.m.
Okay.
Yeah, a.m. would be better. Yeah.
All right. Any other changes to the minutes of the 18th? We are going to withdraw the minutes on the consent agenda of November 13 for the moment and hold it over until the next meeting. Okay? Those are the changes so far. Anything else? Anybody? Okay, great. All right. Any amendments or changes to the agenda as it exists this evening? All right, agenda stands. While everyone is here, I would just like to make a couple of announcements. One, thank you to the Academy School for hosting us this evening. Thank you. On this very, very cold night. And while I'm at it, I'd like to say thanks to Ruby McAdoo for all that she has done. Press release and a flyer for next Tuesday's meeting, and we'll get to that as we get to board matters. A reminder to everyone, the next meeting is next Tuesday. We will be in Cusick, so it's December 16, and it is already a packed agenda. It is, I believe, the first evening when we present a draft of the preliminary budget for FY27, and that's how the meeting will begin, followed by invited guests. Our two state senators, Nader Hashim and Wendy Harrison, who will be discussing the current educational plan for the state of Vermont. And that part of the board meeting will begin at 6:45 next Tuesday. However, we strongly encourage everyone to be here at 6 o'clock, be at Cusick, or online at 6 o'clock, because the budget is critically important.
I think someone in this room doesn't have the volume turned all the way down. I'm hearing a bit of an echo. Someone who's in the Zoom meeting.
Someone in Zoom or present in
Someone
the room?
present who's in Zoom, but it sounds like they fixed it.
That sounds like it was on me. Okay, thank you very much. Okay. We are up to student matters.
Yes.
All right, Riley Bristow.
So in terms of Willow and I's student engagement project, we've pretty much finished contacting principals of elementary schools that we're going to be ideally working with. And we have also finished our questions that we want to be asking the 6th graders about the move-up process to BAMS primarily. So in terms of what we're doing now, we're looking towards February or March to actually begin the project and go to these 6th grade classrooms and talk to them. We're finalizing our actual schedule on what we want to do during these meetings. Ideally, we're hoping to do some icebreakers, discussion questions, talk about hopes, fears, other questions we have. And then end with an activity, kind of get to know the kids a bit. It's hopefully going to be less of us going and lecturing them and more of kind of just talking to them, having a discussion about what they're excited about so we can get some general data. In terms of that, we just have to finalize some schedules with elementary school principals and wait, and that's pretty much it.
Okay, thank you. Very exciting. Nicely done. Good work.
That's a good question.
Ruby, question.
So Riley, is just thinking about the middle school bands and also 2 other outlying middle schools, is your focus primarily on transitions with BAMS, or does it also include the other middle schools?
So we're mostly focusing on BAMS right now. I mean, we're not at all against focusing on some other middle schools. If you think that'd be a beneficial thing for us to add to our list. I think we mostly focused on BAMS because we assumed that the majority of the 6th graders would be going to BAMS, and I think that was confirmed by a lot of the principals we spoke to. But I don't know if you think that adding some other middle schools to that would be a good idea, then. I mean,
I think starting somewhere is really good, and starting with the bulky, the place that it takes most of the students is a good idea. But I do think that as someone whose kids are in one of those schools, and I think that you're both from the outlying towns also, I think that it's beneficial to remember those families as you're moving forward. So maybe it's a second question, or maybe there are things that will come out of it, but it's just something to keep in mind.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I'm under the impression as well that you're going to be working with students coming from the middle school to BUHS, to the high school.
No, we're working with 6th graders moving up to BAMS.
I see. You're not going to a middle school to high school.
That may be a future
In the
endeavor.
future.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. Any other comment from students? I don't see anyone online. I don't see any hands.
I was like to make a comment.
Yes, of course.
Riley and Willow, I really appreciate the approach, and thank you for your service. Looking forward to hearing more about it.
Of course.
Good. Thank you. All right. Public comment on non-agenda items. This is a time for the board to listen and to take notes. It is not a time for the board to respond to comments or to engage in dialogue with the public. If appropriate, the board and administration will work on next steps. All right, thank you. Yes, please identify yourself by name and your town.
Martha Noyce, Brattleboro. After attending several finance committee meetings, many Tuesday evening school board meetings, reviewing the minutes of those meetings, and thoroughly analyzing page by page, line by line, the budget drafts for elementary and secondary schools, I wonder, how many of you committee members, board members, principals, admin, scrutinize each proposed or accepted warranted item and every line item on the budget drafts? Do you give each of these the same attention you would your own personal or family budget? Or do you simply nod, vote to accept, minus any conversations or ask any, or minus any hard questions many are so deserving of. For example, some warranted items on recent agendas show credit card payments, $25,000, $38,000, $39,000. When agendas present people hired, retiring, and resigning, are any of these people rehired in another capacity at a new negotiated salary? And as written in the recent November 29th minutes, several employees that were expensive hires, end quote, contributed to the increase in staffing costs. Will there be any mention of the 10% increase in proficiency in literacy and math for the WSESD students while decreasing their achievement gap goals that were published in the FY 2026 budget report? I quite often pose questions to you or make a thought-provoking statement, all regarding the importance of being fiscally responsible and mindful of all of the voters who elected you to this very important position. I am doing my part as a resident, a homeowner, and a taxpayer in Brattleboro. I have no trouble sleeping at night. How are all of you sleeping? With that said, I challenge you to cut the budget by $500,000. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public?
I have a comment.
Sure, Tim, Maciel.
So, I see Martha, you're giving those notes to the note taker, so those
She
will be
just
entered
did,
into the
she
minutes.
just did.
Thank you. It's important that we have those to review.
They.
Regularly do what I'm giving them.
Okay, thank you very much, Tim.
And thank you, Martha.
Any other comment from the public? All right, I don't see any hands up, so we are moving along. We're going to begin with Fiscal Report. Frank Rucker. Thank you.
Okay. So this evening's topic was to touch base on some of the funding indices that we're just receiving. And these are all things that drive our budget planning, help define what's fiscally responsible from the state's point of view. And maybe I'll recap some of the things that we've gone over in the Finance Committee, as Martha just referred to, over the last several weeks. And anybody on the Finance Committee, feel free to, of course, contribute to that. I'm passing around what was attached to the agenda. It's two the critical communications that come out of the Agency of Ed that begin defining, as they say, our ability to calculate a tax rate and evaluate whether our budget proposal is viable or not within this economic environment. So we've got just a single handout going around. Looks like it's all the way around. And I will provide that sort of brief overview. Where we are in the budget planning timeline is having engaged with the Finance Committee on a proposed budget plan for the elementary system. And then in another segment, a plan for the secondary system. And then we've also reviewed some of our enrollment statistics. And in our most recent meeting, we reviewed some of our projected revenues. This evening, we were scheduled here to talk about as I say, some of the major funding formula indices that drive our ability to calculate tax rates. So the first document here is the tax commissioner's letter. This is required every year by the legislature. It goes to the Speaker of the House. You see the address there, and then it's widely shared with school board members, superintendents, and folks that plan school budgets. So the first page echoes what we just heard from Martha in terms of a sentiment that spending on public ed across the state has accelerated where we've seen declining enrollment. That's what that graph depicts in Vermont. And the legislature, as we know, came to a consensus with the governor last year to pass Act 73 that does change Vermont public school governance and the funding mechanism. At this point, they have a 3-year timeline to implement that. I believe at this point, still expected to be fully implemented in 2030. So that's kind of the general backdrop of the tax commissioner's letter in terms of context. But the what's called the mandated forecast on page 3 is what we can use very tangibly to begin, as they say, understand the impact on our communities as a result of the funding formula. So page 3 has a table, and that table represents what every public school in the state compares their cost per student to. And cost per student is a fairly simple concept, but the state of Vermont has made it somewhat complicated in that they apply a variety of weights to the student counts. So instead of saying we have 2,500 kids, they'll give us a statistic that says we have something like 3,500 kids. And that represents a research-based analysis of the fact that high school kids cost more than elementary because you have driver's ed and you have lots of different co-curricular programs. You have many other kind of certifications required to teach at the high school level versus the elementary level. So there's a weight for that. There's a weight for students in poverty. Again, the theory of needing to apply more intervention to get everybody at the same, say, reading grade level by the 3rd grade. So this is all theory that gets turned into practice, and then this number that we're looking at on page 3 is on a statewide basis what the tax commissioner is saying based on a projected level of spending in fiscal year 27, the year we're planning, and looking at the real estate market in Vermont, which is where the property taxes apply to. The tax commissioners calculated this number of 8,849 as the index that we will compare ourselves to. So if we published a budget that derived a spending per student of twice that number, our tax rate would be $2 per 100,000. Okay, and if we did 1.5 times that number, then our tax rate would be $1.50 per 100,000.
Frank, I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm hearing from people on Zoom that could you just reiterate how people could access the document you're referring to? Because I've gotten a few texts.
Yeah, the document is on the website. It's part of the board agenda. You just click right on the link on the board agenda. So that's why this is such an important number. The good news for us and statewide is that number is bigger than the current number. The current number you see there is 8,596. So to simplify how why that matters, if our spending per student stayed the same and the state raises the yield, the closer the yield comes to our number, the lower our tax rate, right? Because you're simply dividing the two numbers, and the closer you come to equilibrium, the lower our tax rate. So that's favorable. That's about a 2.9% increase. 8849 minus 8596 divided by the baseline is 2.9. The income yield is pretty flat. They're proposing $12,154 versus the $12,172. So very similar number, and that number calculates the tax liability for individuals that are eligible for the income sensitivity provision of the law. And then the third number doesn't affect our residents, but the third number certainly is important to the state, and that's the non-homestead. So that would be the business and the second home and everything other than homestead property tax rate per 100,000. What I haven't seen is the common level appraisal. Usually the Vermont Department of Property Valuation and Review sends CLAs, common level appraisals, to select boards toward the end of the month. We need that data to understand how will this yield number be affected at each town level. Because remember, common level appraisal is a reflection of how closely the town's tax assessment is to actual real estate transactions in each town. And the state of Vermont still differentiates school property taxes by the common level appraisal in each town. So we're waiting for that. The balance of this report is projecting what maybe what their forecast is anticipating statewide in what they're calling education spending, and this is going from 1.9 billion, you see on page 4, to 2.1 billion statewide. They're projecting a 5.8% average education spending increase, and we will be substantially below that. We don't have all of our indices. I've just mentioned we'd like to have the CLA. We also need that weighted average of our student census. We don't have that. The Agency of Ed has indicated they'll be running a report tomorrow morning and then again on Thursday morning, and we'll be looking for that number and applying it to our budget. And that's why we do like to have our first draft of the budget after the data is available. And you also see they've projected total statewide long-term average weighted membership, so our student counts down about 1% statewide. And this is where you can see how substantial the weighting factors are. There's only about 80,000 students in Vermont, and they're showing a statistic of 141,000. So that's a reflection of how they apply the various weights to calculate tax rates that appropriate enough money from community to community to bring in those interventions that bring all of our kids, give them all an opportunity for an education. So that's makes the weather for us in public school funding. And the next page, the last page of this document is it's another collection of indices that the state of Vermont provides to superintendents and business managers to apply for various components of the budget. So the Finance Committee has pretty much touched on most of these as we've worked through deriving both the expense side and the revenue side of our budgets. And the most meaningful number on this page, as in terms of kind of an aggregate impact, is the one that's highlighted in yellow toward the bottom of the page. Says the excess spending threshold is $16,470. So that's the number that Mark and I are always very aware of, and assure the community that we won't exceed that number. What that is if you spend more than that per student, then there's a 100% tax penalty, meaning every dollar that's raised to pay for excess spending above that number is taxed essentially double. And there are several communities not far from us that spend well up above the excess spending threshold, and that's what's part of the issue statewide. So that's a general overview. We expect to provide a comprehensive budget on the 16th. I think that's next week, right? And it will incorporate all of these indices. If we don't have the state equalized student weights, we will estimate them so that we do have a draft. And then the CLA, I don't project CLAs, but we will continue to focus on an equalized tax rate so that we can have a conversation with anyone and know that we're comparing our number to the same basis, apples to apples, and so on. Anything the Finance Committee wants to add to our development process so far?
I'll just chime in as the chair. I think that we have had some really, I think, good, engaging conversations for essentially the last 4 weeks, I think. We were meeting weekly and trying our best to get the word out. We had pretty, a very small amount of community engagement, but I'm hoping that people are feeling welcome to come. But I think overall, I have at least really appreciated Frank's kind of candid dialoguing, and it's always ready to give information when it's asked. And there were some times when we have asked for information or reminded ourselves, oh, this is a question that came up, we should be asking that again. But understanding that the lead up to budget time is Frank's busy time. So asking a little question sometimes has big implications. So anyway, I think that I personally am feeling pretty good about the budget process at this point. I also think that just to harken back to something we heard earlier around that question of how do we as board members review the warrants and how do we consider those expenditures? That is a question that comes up and has been discussed in the Finance Committee. And we've flagged it for future conversation around what is the way, how do we review it. Currently, I think the expectation amongst this body is that the finance committee is looking at things more thoroughly, but that all of us should have an eye and are signing off on those warrants. But so that's what's happening, but I do think that it warrants a conversation at a future date when we're not so budget heavy. So.
Other comments? Brian Rimmer?
Yeah, I have a question, Frank. You mentioned that you keep a close watch on the excess spending threshold. And I know that you don't have all the numbers that you need right now, but do you know how close we are to that at this point? Or is it just, we just have to wait and see?
Yes, we have a general idea, and last year the threshold was 15,926. When I say last year, it's the current budget period. So 15,926 has gone to 16,470 for a future period. Our current budget was 15,851. So you see, we were under it, close but under, and I would expect it would be a similar condition, and that goes with systems like ours that have a substantially higher poverty level than the state average. Champlain Valley, Union, average proportion of students on IEP up in the Colchester, Williston, South Burlington area, 9%. 9%. We are about 24%. So those are the conditions that we don't control, but the intent of the funding formula that we just went over is to support systems. And as you know, we've shared data that says, particularly at the elementary level, our proficiency student growth is just dramatically positive. We've turned around that COVID trend that was so problematic, and the investments that this community's made in public ed and the team that Mark has assembled is really doing a great job with that funding and that support.
Other questions? Tim?
So this is my first year on the finance committee. It's been an experience. What I've noticed is the pace is pretty quick. 1 week we get the elementary school budgets, and next year secondary school budgets. Next week the capital plan. So we throw out a few questions, but we really, I don't think, I'll speak for myself, I haven't had enough time to really scrutinize it in depth the way I want to. And the more I do, the more questions that come up. So what do you advise, Frank, for those questions to come up on the 16th at the public session? Or would you like them sent to you by email?
Best to go through the finance committee chair in terms of questions, and the idea is to keep questions and discussion obviously in the public, the public venue, so that we all hear the same question and we all hear the same answer. Obviously, it's best to ask those questions during the meeting when the information is readily available. But if an answer isn't readily available in a meeting, certainly can be followed up on.
And I do hope for more public participation. Just curious that the Brattleboro Select Board gets like 20 or 30 people, to participate, to voice their opinions on a $25 million budget for the town. Yet I've never seen that we get close to that for what's going to amount to maybe a $70 million budget. So I hope that your PR pays off, Ruby.
I feel like we're doing our best to kind of get the word out. I think it's a really challenging time right now, and in public education. And the idea, I remember being in this room when I wasn't on the board, and I was one of about 40 people who were here. And we used to have that number of people. As the merge happened and as our district grew, it's just people cannot contain and understand what we are as a district. And so I sympathize with people who just don't have the capacity to show up, even though they don't have the capacity to vote, they just don't understand it. And so I do think that, and I hope that the Finance Committee, once we're done with the budget and we've kind of signed off and approved what will be sent to the annual meeting for vote, I hope that we can again think about how to present and how to engage people to try to bring them in, because I think it's not just us, it's throughout the state. It's a challenge, but particularly in our district with being recently merged, I think that going from one town, one school, or like a small group of schools to this massive one is really challenging, I think. That's my opinion.
And
I would like to add to that before you move on to your next point, Tim, okay?
yeah,
And that is, these are particularly stressful times. I want to emphasize that, what Ruby just said. More than not having the capacity to understand, but being stressed beyond capacity to turn up at a meeting like this. This is also the first year with an outreach of such strength in terms of press releases and flyers about finance. So the success of this particular outreach is, it should not be judged by this year at all. It's a first year. The other issue that I would like to add is, as Tim and others on the board write to the finance chair with questions about the budget, I need to be kept in the loop as the board chair, without doubt. So by all means, write to both of us at the same time. So I really want to emphasize that. Tim, it's your call right now.
yeah, just to the board ourselves, speaking to our own board. I think we're pretty frugal, pretty scrupulous when it comes to the board budget. I mean, we've had long discussions about $100 for subscriptions for educational materials. We've had discussions about paying for food for our retreats. So that's fine, be very scrupulous about our own budget. But then when it comes to like hundreds of thousands of dollars for particular items, we have to be even more scrupulous, more concerned. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Matt Shipley.
I hear Tim's statement there. I'd like to offer a perhaps different perspective. I could be naive. I'm of the mind that we have a very robust, very capable administration. I'm also of the mind that we have the Independent Budget Review Committee that also does a deep dive. And we have the Finance Committee as well. My fear about going through a $70 million budget with as fine-tooth of a comb as we are proposing, I don't know that we have the time or the mental capacity to double do the work of these other committees and highly effective professionals. I think we need to trust in the people that are doing the work, make sure we have a general eye toward it, and allow the committees to do their deep dives, but not to second guess them. I don't find that to be productive.
Peter, thank you.
If I could just add one more.
Excuse me, I'm just gonna look around the room and see if others want to comment, and just give it a moment to settle. Anybody else? Okay, Tim?
I do have something to say.
Okay, just wait one second, board members.
Go ahead.
Tim?
No, I just want to say I appreciate Matt's comments, but it gets down to something I always think about, the role, the responsibility, the statutory obligations of being a board member. And I think one of those key obligations is fiscal oversight, and I don't take that lightly. And I see my role as being a healthy skeptic, and any professional would welcome that skepticism to be able to really justify every dollar in the budget. That's something that I think professionals welcome, not are irritated by.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Not that anybody's saying they're irritated, but that's just my take on it.
Okay. I don't see the two statements justifying a but. I don't think one is a contradiction of the other. I do think that we are a board of 10 members, and we are doing a lot in this particularly fraught year of change and transitions. And there are significant committees that are looking at the budget very closely. There are several of us as board members who are serving on the finance committee, and we are working very hard in our role as board members elected to provide oversight. So without doubt, we are doing that job. Other comments? Christina Naylor.
Christina Naylor, member of the IBRC. I just have a quick query of Frank, and I also would just like to comment beforehand that I really love that there are 5 board members on the Finance Committee. I think it's really great that there is a network of people that can work together to understand the budget, that you have a seasoned person who understands finance. I think she did some good training in her role in the IBRC to understand finance, and several people that have a lot of experience. So it really helps bring people in, and I do think the more people that understand how the money's being spent makes the taxpayer feel more comfortable with the money that's spent. We're lucky to have an electorate that supports our schools. And so one of the reasons I think that support happens is that there are people who are expected to do that. I'm supporting both Matt and Tim's statement. But I just had a nerdy question for Frank, which nobody would expect anything different from me, I hope. So Frank, you spoke about earlier about the levels in Champlain Valley of poverty and things like that, which have been shown to require more interventions at the school level and therefore more expense. And we went through a reweighting, which in theory should have equalized our spending, which we had a penalty on, and particularly Brattleboro has had a long penalty in serving their students without getting support at the state level that equalizes the needs of the students as best as possible. In your mind, do you think that weighting is adequate? Because I was kind of hearing like maybe not, or I mean, it's certainly more adequate than it was. I think we can agree with that. Do you feel like the formula is a reasonable formula as you look around the state?
I think we definitely need time to see if it proves itself out. It's going to be a hard thing to measure, but it can be measured, and I hope our Agency of Ed is more active in measuring. And what I'm talking about is research-based practices that are known to get results, improve student proficiency in math and science and literacy.
I wasn't speaking about proficiency. I was just.
I know, but here's how I see it working out over the next 3 years. So if the state does the analysis to your question on, well, what are the outcomes, and then looks at successful systems that are using similar best practices, we can say, well, okay, the inputs are being applied similarly. We know what those costs are and we know what the weighting are. And now we can come to a conclusion and answer your question. We are way off, just so far off, as you already pointed out, when poverty is weighted at 1.25 for years and years and years. Now it's 100%. But is that enough? I don't think so, but I really would need data to answer that question, and I think it can be answered. I hope it is answered, because it's huge, it's high stakes for communities like ours.
Thank you.
Nancy? I'm sorry, Martha?
Martha Nice, Brattleboro. Getting back to the warranted items and the various conversations that were had, it's my understanding that members of the Finance Committee have to sign their name or sign off on them, or various principals.
Several of us do. We sign off on the warrants, yes.
This whole group signs off.
Yes, the board does, yes. And we receive the warrants as, through email, yes.
And I know your time is taken by many, many important parts, but I've always believed if I'm signing my name to something, I want to know exactly what I'm signing and okaying and approving, or to this day, I will not sign my name. So I think that has to be kept in mind. If you're signing your name, you want to know what each one of those dollars is being spent for.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. And there has been many a board meeting when questions have been asked specific to the warrants. So yes, but I do appreciate what you're saying, yes. Other comment as we are on this agenda item? All right, okay. It is now 6:50, and I'm wondering whether we can take a 10-minute stretch break at this point and reconvene. Is there anything else before we do having to do with finance? All right, we will, over the next few board meetings, be spending the majority of our time on this topic. All right, we're going to take a 10-minute stretch break and come back at the...
Can I turn the IBRC on?
Oh, yes, of course.
The IBRC is adjourned, thank you.
The IBRC is adjourned. All right, it is 6:50. We're coming back at 7 o'clock promptly. We are reconvening and going to go to the administrative report. Mark Spino.
Okay, so we have one new hire tonight, 2 resignations, and 3 retirements to announce. I'll start with the resignations. James Strong, current BAMS technology and design teacher, and Samantha Mustaine, Oak Grove grade 3 teacher. So those are the 2 resignations.
Okay, is there a motion to accept those resignations with regret?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Okay, our 3 retirements this evening. Christopher Hodgson, aviation teacher at the Career Center. Jean Hodgson, health careers teacher at the Career Center. And Michelle Hood, BUHS science teacher and department chair.
All right, is there a motion to accept those?
So moved.
Yes, thank you.
Seconded with thanks.
Yes. Discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Any abstentions?
Okay, and our new hire being proposed this evening is Alexandra Joyle, Academy School. This would be an extended grade 2 teacher position, extended leave.
Okay, motion, please.
So moved. Seconded.
All right. Discussion? All those in favor of accepting this new hire?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, welcome. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, tonight is not a presentation night, but I did want to take a few minutes to reflect a little bit on our board presentation calendar. And just, I've reviewed this before, but just another reminder that for each of our presentations that we plan throughout the year, a new column on this calendar is alignment to education quality standards. So you'll see throughout the document that when we provide presentations, we are making those connections to the ed quality standards, which are essentially in effect since July 1st of this past summer. We've always done the alignment to policy, so this is an additional alignment around EQS. Our next real thorough presentation is planned in February, the first meeting in February, which is a summit. And the topic is around systems to support and increase graduation rates, as well as an overview of the annual report that will be getting published for our March meeting to hopefully assist with the budget process and hopefully approving a budget to move forward. So I think, Martha, you referenced the importance of the annual report and highlighting our continuous improvement plan and goals towards those plans, and that is absolutely the intention of the work in that annual report. So we're off to a great start. Just about every principal has submitted their report. The curriculum office is collaborating on putting together the student data to assist with the report. I know Deborah has provided the board report, and I should be finishing up the superintendent report by the end of this week. So we're ahead of the pace that we have traditionally been on, which is nice. So one of the changes we made last year in the annual report was we created consistent templates for each school to follow, so it was easier for the consumer, the reader, to find information at all of the different school sites. Felt like that was a nice addition, and we're continuing with that this year. And then, of course, the copious amounts of data that we were able to put together in the annual report last year, which seemed to be a step in the right direction from previous years. And we're going to continue to lean into that same type of approach for this year, and tie everything to our continuous improvement planning and work. So, and tied to student outcomes, that's why we're doing the work we do for students. So just wanted to make a quick reference. I think maybe Frank wanted to reference a couple.
Can I just confirm that in the annual report, that it will be, that it will have very much the same visuals, the bar graphs,
Yep.
as well as color.
Exactly.
So that it really stands out. We're not looking at variations of gray. Perfect.
For sure.
Thank
Yep.
you. Mhm.
Can I ask?
Tim?
Yeah, so we know that the educational quality standards has a list of minimum data requirements. These are minimum. And among those are suspension rates. So will the annual report, or preferably before that, can we have some data on how many students are are put into day in-school suspensions as well as out-of-school suspensions?
Yeah, well, there will be behavior data, and we'll likely have that ready for February 10th in advance of the annual meeting. So the board and the community will get a pretty good look at the annual report before it is published.
And could there be stats from last year so we can see improvement or not?
like I said, we're continuing to work on putting the annual report together. And we'll likely have a thorough draft to review in February.
And as I was reviewing EQS today, Education Quality Standards, it states the report should be disaggregated by school site as well as by race. And of course, we've been through this before in this setting, that cannot be in a public setting. Our schools are small, and that really cannot be done in a public setting. So I just want to establish that as we look at this data in February.
Identifiable information is
Yes.
something we need to work very closely with and be cautious about, for sure.
Right. Okay, we have a question. Martha?
In light of what you have both said, it kind of brought back some thoughts that I had with budgetary expenses that are very expensive when students have to be placed out of district or in a off-site school, and valuing the privacy of those. Will there be some type of numbers as far as students this year, last year, and the cost for this year and last year, where they're out of?
This actually came up at a recent meeting, and I don't know whether it was at an SD meeting. I get confused because I also serve on the supervisory union. And I believe by far the majority of our students are now in-house. That, in fact, it came up at the SU side of the house, I do recall, offsetting some of the increased costs having to do with special education. So it's been a significant change that's taken place. Yeah, thank you for raising that, because I think that's an important issue.
For sure.
Yes.
So I think Frank wanted to make a couple points too,
Yeah,
related
so-
to budgeting process.
In addition to education quality standards, there's district quality standards, I'm sure you're familiar with, and I just wanted to make sure we acknowledged that District Quality Standard 111.1 is budgeting and accounting. The standard is that we maintain the accounting records in accordance with the generally accepted accounting principle rules. We follow the Governmental Accounting Standard Board principles.
You read
and
that
so on.
really quickly, Frank.
And so
Don't read
on.
it more slowly.
Well, and so on.
Yes.
So I just wanted to be sure the board was aware, we are certainly aware of those standards and the criteria to reach the advanced proficiency sort of metric, which we do. And then there's risk management standard, that's 111.2. That is primarily the audit interface that is assures transparency and compliance with those standards. We hit the advanced proficiency standard as you review that in the AOE's website. Personnel management as well. So I'm just acknowledging that we are very aware of these standards, and we do abide by the various metrics that establish proficiency, or what they call advanced. Data management is 111.4, and then facility management and safety standard is standard 112, and that speaks to capital planning, bid process, health and safety standards, systems that track those sorts of assets. So I wanted to just acknowledge that in addition to the education quality standards, the district quality standards are very much part of our work and how it's guided.
Thank you. Okay?
Yep.
All right. Any questions or comments? All right. we are going to move on to board matters. Leadership Council, well, board matters. Let's take a pause for a moment and Ruby, well, sorry, I'm backing up a moment. All right, Leadership Council updates, yes.
Madam Chair, point of order. I note on the minutes, bullet point, or so the agenda, proposed agenda, a bullet point for monthly report, and I just want to make sure we weren't missing anything there.
Okay, monthly report. Thank you. Mhm.
The monthly report that was forwarded, that's the monthly report that's electronically forwarded to board members. Yeah.
Okay, so,
Related to this and leadership councils, can I ask a question about the monthly report? The section of the monthly report that's reserved for leadership council comment and input, I feel like is not consistently kind of completed, and I'm just wondering if you can comment on your thoughts around the use of that tool and how we do we need to do work to try to get that to be more consistently kind of completed, or is there some other thing that we could be doing as a school community?
I mean, it's been a topic of conversations amongst the leadership council chairs when we've had the orientation in the fall. And we will do another one later this winter when things kind of settle down a little bit. But it's been mixed in terms of the feedback from leadership councils. Some of the schools are really consistently filling that out and providing the information. Some of the councils don't necessarily find it super useful. And don't engage with that process. But there was a lively discussion about this at the orientation, and I think we should probably continue to have those conversations and evaluate. But a lot of times it also depends on when the LC meeting falls in the calendar. So sometimes it just doesn't line up for the first board meeting of the month. But I think there's value in reflecting and asking for a self-evaluation from our leadership councils and continue to get their feedback on that.
Yeah, and I do think that what we have heard for many years now from leadership councils is, what do you want from us? Or like, give us direction, or we want to hear from the board. And so I do think that we're at a juncture this year, like with the budget stuff, we have some outreach that we as a board are doing. So I would hope that there's real clarity from the leadership council representatives on the board of bringing some of these invitations and bringing some of this engagement to those meetings. Include the flyers that we have, but also just a one-to-one invitation. Yeah, so that's all.
Yeah, I think we're at a point where we have functioning leadership councils at all of our schools and board membership, I believe, on all of our councils right now. So that's good. We've made good progress over the last few years.
and I'm wondering if the minutes haven't been standardized so that at the bottom of the minutes, there is a box for communication to the board. For example, 3 things we celebrate, appreciate, 3 topics worthy of discussion, and then communications from LC to board. Matt?
And I could be wrong, but the story I tell myself is that this board has done a tremendous amount of work in terms of showing up regularly, engaging, ensuring that there's a board member at every LC, so that those lines of communication are stronger, more robust. So I think we're doing really tremendous work.
Totally agree.
All right, so with this in mind, we're going to move on to Leadership Council updates. And I'll start. This is from Darmison, and I'm going to read what they have written. The Darmison Leadership Council is working on the goal of greater inclusion of LGBTQIA+ students and families. And that includes allies. This was a goal last year for the Darmison Leadership Council, and goals should never be a one-off. So it is being continued this year, and there has been outreach to Putney Central School, having to do with a schedule of regular potluck dinners once a month. With, as well, this is perhaps specific to Dummerston again, diversifying the library collection, especially on the younger side, and for these potluck dinners, perhaps having a host, having host speakers join. So this is a pilot program in terms of getting these potlucks off the board and joining forces with the Putney School. The Putney, I'm sorry, with Putney Central School. Right, Putney Central. All right, so that's the report from Darmison. Anybody else? Yes, Jessica.
The Academy School Leadership Council meeting this month has been canceled due to scheduling issues among the members, so they'll pick back up in January.
Okay, thank you. Kim.
Putney actually meets on Thursday, so we'll have our meeting then, but they did ask, which I will bring, they wanted to know of what are current policies that we've adopted, readopted, so I'll be bringing a list for that.
And can I?
Policies that we've
But the
adopted.
school board, yes, recently have discussed and.
Absolutely, absolutely, and of course, those are on the minutes as well, yes. Yes, Ruby.
So I'm a smidge behind, but it will be ready for by tomorrow. One of my tasks is to monthly kind of take the summaries from the top of those minutes and put them into one document so that it's more of an executive summary that can be shared at leadership councils. We did that, I did that last month, and I'll do that again this month. And that lists, because it's in summary, what policies were adopted.
Okay, that's
Very quickly,
yes.
Bethany keeps a spreadsheet of what policies have been adopted and what are in what stage of review, so you could probably just get that from her.
Yes, great. Okay, Tim, I thought I saw your hand.
Yeah,
And
so
I need
Ben's-
you need to raise it high so I can hear it, see it. Yes.
What?
I'm in the way.
Oh.
Raise your hand high.
So BAMS met last Thursday. Always a really good meeting. Just a note, as part of my regular notes to the LC, I include not just the policies that were approved and the policies that are coming up, but the policies that are under discussion at the policy meeting, encouraging people to come to those. So we have coming up a few times a year, the LC members donate breakfast to the staff. That's coming up on the 19th. It's always a good time for me to meet teachers, and it's just a good thing to do. It starts at 8 o'clock, it usually goes till 8:30, 8:45. And we talked about the budget, of course. One of the things that we noted was that BAMS is I think the only school that has seen a drop in its budget. At the same time, they have seen an increase of 60 students at BAMS. So what that's resulting in, of course, are larger class sizes. And then the estimate is that BAMS will have an average class size of about 18, which is not bad. It's under what the state recommends. But still, anybody who is taught knows that there's a difference between teaching 12 and teaching 18 students. And then there's the issue of equity. What's the average middle school class size in Dummerston and Putney? So those are a few things that we talked about at ours.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else, as we are on leadership councils?
The Guilford Leadership Council, they had met, unfortunately, I wasn't able to get out of work to be there. But they're at the mid-year benchmark between December 9th and the 23rd. And the first draft of their budget was submitted. Next leadership meeting is the 17th.
All right, and I want to say just general information about leadership councils. The schedule is on the website. So much of this information is on the website, and it really behooves people to become familiar with the website and use it. So, moving on to board subcommittees. Board subcommittees, do you want to talk about the Communications Council?
I certainly can.
Thank you very much.
So the Communications Council has had a number of things that we're working on, but the one that I have a handout that's going to go around, and this will be posted on the Facebook page.
Can I just say, as it goes around, before it continues, there should be about 30 here.
Oh, yeah.
And maybe, and this, it's going around for us to post these flyers. So not just take one, but actually post it in your usual haunts.
Yeah.
So Brattleboro, you might want to take a few of them. I don't know.
So, yeah,
Okay.
so take a few, pass it down. So essentially, this is a flyer that is promoting a listening session with local senators, and that was something we discussed at, oh, there goes some for this side of the room. This is something we discussed at the last meeting, so Senators Nader Hashim and Wendy Harrison will be coming to the December 16th board meeting, and there will be a listening session at that time. That was the date, and we considered trying to have a listening session that was on a different date, off-site, but this was the date that they proposed, and we, after brief consultation, realized that there was a window of time after the budget discussion, and potentially that will draw whether people are going to come because they want to hear the captivating budget discussion, or they want to hear the senators and have bend their ear. Hopefully that will bring in more people. So I think the hope is that at this meeting, which will be in the Cusick room, we can ensure that there are, as there are here, lines of chairs that create a space that is welcoming and that people will be comfortable sitting at, and just encourage people to come. So if you can take a handful, there are like 2 to 3 as a max per town, and post them in the various places around town, that would be great. And if you can't, if you're in a town that I'm out this week, let me know and I can try to help with that. That was a big part of what we as the Communications Council have been doing. And we also are focused on continuing to get the word out around board candidate options. I'm pretty sure the petitions for board candidacy are now available, but I am a board candidate, so I'm going to go into my town hall and find out if they're available and when the due date is. We'll continue, we will repost the graphic that we made and get the word out about that. I don't know if I'm missing anything else.
So you're talking about candidates, yeah.
Yes.
There is a press release having to do with December 16th that's going out.
Yes.
To publications, to social media, reiterating the information on the flyer.
Yeah.
Great. And it seems to me there's another press release having to do with the budgetary process.
Yes.
Did you just talk about that, or did I miss that? It's for the next series of school board meetings.
Right, so so there is a way in which the budget process, like the budget development process and the timeline that has always been released by Frank, the Communications Council took that and kind of massaged that into a pretty graphic. And now that more than half of our meetings have gone by the wayside, we recast that and like took the reduced dates and made it into a new format to try to keep it on people's minds. So, is that what you were talking about?
Yeah, and the only dates that have gone by the wayside are the finance committee meeting dates. We are now beginning to look at the budget in the SD
Exactly.
on the Tuesday meeting. So tonight was, in effect, the first one, but next week is the first comprehensive draft budget presentation, hopefully with public input, right? That's on the 16th, and then the next date is on January 13th, and the next date is the 27th, when hopefully this board is voting on the budget to approve it. Right, so that's a press release that's going out as well. Right.
So anytime that there's this, if there's a kind of a graphic like this, I try to make sure that there's there's a format for press releases that comes through central office, and so we kind of try to model that so that there's words as well as a graphic, because some, the Commons, the Reformer, they want words, and so if we have a press release, then they can grab that and more easily put it into their publication. So that's what we've done.
Okay, yeah. Great, thank you very much, Ruby. Thank you, and to everyone on the Communications Council, thank you. Yeah. This is a huge push. Anything else from board subcommittees? Yes,
This is
Jessica.
Communications Council related. We last meeting had spoke about a stakeholder survey regarding two-way communication around one of our board goals. It's kind of umbrellas two committees / task force. So that we did pilot that survey with a small group. It was sent to 10 people. I think 6 people responded and tested out the survey for us. We've made some adjustments. Due to time restraints, we're not able to discuss it until January, so that is tabled until January.
Yeah, tonight, I became aware of it too late for it to be on tonight's agenda, and next week, it's a packed agenda. I'm not even going to put out a memo to board members to add to it. It may very well be a very long night, which means that we're not looking until January, so if you can get me that revised survey well before the next meeting, so that it can be attached to the agenda. It has to be warned and attached to the agenda. Okay.
Can I add a point of clarification? When do we send the agendas? I was under the impression it was the Thursday before the meeting.
I'm looking to get it out by Wednesday night, and even sending it by Thursday. I think the central office needs to have it by Thursday morning. And a lot of this also has to do with my personal schedule and what a week looks like for me in terms of sitting down and pulling together an agenda. So I typically send out a notice to board members, and I provide a deadline And it certainly is not Thursday, and it's not Wednesday, can't be from my,
Okay.
just in terms of what's going across my desk as a board chair. So I would pay attention to that deadline.
Sure. I
Right.
thought it was discussed in another meeting that if we were gonna discuss something, it was due the Thursday before, but
That,
perhaps that was just
that is on a policy, and it has to do with reports coming from administration.
okay.
And, yeah, that is very specific, reports coming from administration. It's in one of the policies, it's either C7 or C8, I do believe. So, but in terms of my reaching out and saying, please, and even in terms of my email saying, please, let's say, provide information by the Monday, I would expect that administrators are paying attention to that as well, so that I can get it on the agenda and format it and get it to the central office. Yeah. Okay. Anything else? Board subcommittees? Is that what we're on right now? Board subcommittees, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's,
Tim?
did we discuss CPAC at the last regular board meeting?
Yes,
We did
Yeah.
cover that,
yeah, we told them about the meeting and everything.
okay.
Okay. Anything else? Yes, Ruby.
So for the Programmatic and Performance Equity Committee, I have been on that committee, and I've been chairing that committee, and I do not have the capacity to do that, as is evidenced by the committee has not been meeting. And you know, and that shouldn't be a surprise this is definitely a committee that I very reluctantly chaired, in part because I really believe in the kind of idea of this committee, of this board having an eye to equity and how are our kids experiencing things from school to school, and how can we as a board help to kind of increase that equity. I believe that, but I don't have the capacity to chair and move that along. So I'm letting the other board members know, board members who are on that committee, board members who are not on that committee. We have had moments in the past where committees fall dormant and for long times, and sometimes then go away. That has happened. That would be a shame with this particular committee, but I also, you know, can't carry it.
Okay, are you still going to serve on that committee?
I can serve on the committee, I just
Okay,
cannot chair.
so I would think, I know that as I look at my notes, I see Jessica, Ruby, Brian, and Jocelyn on the committee. So I would suggest that your stepping down as chair would reside within that committee, since you're not stepping away from it, and see if anyone else can serve. Have you discussed?
That would be something if I had the capacity to call a
The
meeting
meeting,
at all.
the meeting.
But
Okay.
I do not.
Okay, so, again, I think it is the four of you, perhaps via a quick email, to see who can just warn the meeting and put up a quick agenda and move in that direction. Again, it's Jessica, Ruby, Brian, and Jocelyn. And if, with an exchange of email among the four of you, if it's falling dormant, I would bring it back to the board at that point. Does that make sense? To let that be the next step? Okay, I'm seeing, it's only 7:37, so,
That's it.
on this issue?
Yeah.
Okay, Tim?
So even if there's no committee, okay, the work is more efficient when there's a committee. But even if not, the issue's not gonna go away.
No, right.
So they should be brought up before the whole board. A couple of issues that are on my mind, for example, concern equity among the middle schools. And just recently, a student brought up an issue of transportation for after-school programs. She was talking about not being able to participate in sports because she has nobody to pick her up after the practice. Things like that will not go away, and they should be brought up before the whole board. And I hope there will be time to include issues of equity and performance in the agenda.
I don't think that you need to hope whether these issues will be on the agenda or not. I think that they are always on the agenda embedded. I don't think it needs to be specifically isolated. But as we all know, if there is a situation with a student, I think there is a protocol that exists that that issue of transportation for after-school activities would go to that after-school individual, to the principal moving
Well, no,
up.
she was speaking really for all students in her situation. She said, I'm not even interested in sports, but I know people who would like to participate in sports. It wasn't an individual isolated case.
So it was a generalized statement.
Right.
All right. Generalized statements are difficult sometimes, but, okay, thank you. All right. Why don't you, provide a point of contact with information such as this. Send me an email as board chair. Copy the vice chair. Copy the clerk. And let's make sure that nothing ever falls through the cracks. If 3 people are on this email, the 3 being elected by our peers within this group annually, less likely that it will be lost in the shuffle. I tend not to lose things in the shuffle, because if it's an email like that, I print it out, so there's a lot of paper floating around. Why don't we do it that way? Okay, does that make sense, Tim?
Great suggestion.
Thank you very much. Anything else from board subcommittees? All right. Anything from the supervisory union as an update?
Sure. The SU is, of course, deep in its budget discussions. It is perhaps not the best news that anyone has ever heard financially. Among other things, apparently the SU's poverty level has, over the last 3 years, it has been decreasing relative to the national level. As a consequence, I'm told that we should anticipate a probable 20% cut in our Title I funding. And they have no reliable information yet on any other title funding available. Some of the spending that was meant to come from titles is being moved to local funding. And Frank has a proposed budget for us to look at tomorrow night, which I believe is up 7.1%, which isn't bad considering there's been a 27% decrease in federal program grants and that our needs are up. We have a 3% increase in students using IEPs. So all of this will once again be revealed tomorrow evening.
Okay. All right. We are going to move on to the next agenda item, which is proposed dates for staff appreciation. We're not opening it up to a discussion of staff appreciation. We're looking very specifically at dates. Matt Shibley.
Yeah. So as we've talked about before, this board, when we did staff appreciation last year, we noted it may behoove us to do it earlier in the year rather than waiting till the end of the year, as there tends to be a lot of staff appreciations toward the end of the year. And the dark months of the winter are a good time for us to recognize the hard work of our staff. So I would love to be able to propose Tuesday, March 24th, as being the day that we do staff appreciation.
Okay, and I presume that date has passed by administration?
Yeah.
Great. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Okay, second? All right. Any discussion? All those in favor of March 24 for staff appreciation, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, it is March 24, and Matt, will you be able to rally us, the troops, and...
I am hoping I have the support of the board to be able to do the similar thing that we did last year. And I thought it was well received by staff, and I'd like to be able to continue to do that.
Okay, all right.
And this might include, if I could be so bold as to ask board member Brian to write another beautiful note that could accompany this, I would be very happy.
Seconded.
Cool.
Oh, that's a second, so we don't need a motion to, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you, and I'm certainly there if you can load stuff into the back of my car. All right, great. Yes, Ruby.
I wanted to also put my support around Brian as a wordsmith. He's a great wordsmith. But I also, just a reminder that we do take his words and put it into a kind of pretty formatting. And let's make sure that we utilize that in terms of the printing that we can do for each of the locations.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. All right. Moving on. Update regarding legislative issues. Do we have anything?
We have quite a bit.
Okay. Are you reading a statement?
We have several
2
pages.
To read aloud to
Yeah,
us.
I mean, kind of, yeah.
Okay, reading aloud, I'm going to say, as we approach 8 o'clock at night, is hard. And so is it possible to, because that is what took place the last time I recall, and I'm wondering if it couldn't be linked to the minutes instead, which would be great. And then we can read it, we can isolate issues, and we're really quite focused as we're looking at it. Is that agreeable?
Yeah.
It is, yes?
I have to think about it. Agreeable for now.
I'm just looking at for now, that's all. Okay, thank you. Is
But-
there anything really specific that's like right hot off the press that you want us to focus on? For example, you did send us an email with several bullets, and I would hope that people are reading critical emails such as those. So is there anything of immediate concern?
It's not immediate, but something that we haven't really focused on. We've spoken a lot about mandatory school closures. And just to clarify, the Rural Schools Community Alliance is not against school closures. They're against mandatory forced school closures. It's an important distinction that I think has been lost. But what we were going to focus on tonight was the, in keeping with the budget issues, the foundation formula funding system, which is a big part of 73. One of the reasons for redistricting, forming new districts, is so that to enable the state to go ahead with foundation formula if this goes ahead, just to be clear, there would be no budget committee. The budget, the whole system would be taken out of our hands, out of the district's hands, out of the WSE, the SD, and done by the state would allocate a certain amount to each district. Now, each district would have the option of voting on an increase to that budget to a certain extent, but I think Jocelyn was part of this discussion in the task force. There's a lot of discussion about even the wording, what goes on the ballot to approve an increase. Then what they were talking about for a long time was making sure that the voters knew exactly what impact this would have on their tax rate. So they wouldn't just vote on an increase in the budget, but an increase in their tax rate. Transparency. So the foundation formula is a huge part of 73. Are the voters ready to give up determining our own budgets?
Okay, so if you could send that to Matt, and that way we can read it. Thank you. All right, we are up to the consent agenda. There were some changes made to it. So with the changes in mind, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved. Seconded.
All right, any discussion? Well, no discussion at this point, right.
And just to clarify, that does not include the minutes from November 13th? Is
It
that-
does not, I pulled that out.
Right.
Right, and it includes the amendments to on the 18th. Right. All right, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you very much. The Policy and Amendment Committee presents for readoption D15, travel reimbursement. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
I noticed in the policy, it looks like there's some language redundancy. I believe it's probably a typo.
Okay, I have to get it in front of me.
Second paragraph, second sentence, it says the procedures for reimbursement will the same be consistent whether expenses are incurred, and it goes on.
Right.
Maybe just one or the other.
Okay, all right. Okay, we will fix that. Okay, thank you very much. Okay. Any other discussion? With that change, are we still able to vote on the policy? Brian?
What is the change? Which of those wordings are you going with then?
We are,
Will be consistent whether expenses are incurred for federal. See, it has the same and
will the same be consistent? It will take out the same, and the procedures for reimbursement will be consistent whether. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay, does that make sense?
Yep.
Yes, all right. Are we comfortable with keeping this in place and voting on it? All right, yes, thank you. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Jessica, thank you very much. Sharp eye. We try to go through this with a fine-tooth comb, all of us on this committee, and it is amazing how things can slip by. The next policy for readoption. Is there a motion for readoption of G17, proficiency-based graduation requirements?
so moved.
Seconded.
Discussion. Brian?
Just again, some typographical sorts of things. In the second paragraph, the third line, the second sentence is credits will specify the proficiency demonstrated in order to attain a credit and shall not be based on time spent in learning. I believe you need a full stop there.
Yes, yes.
And then really minor, just below the word learning is the word places. I think it should be place.
Please.
Mhm. Got it, thank you. With those changes, any other discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. Thank you very much. I'm never going to approve anything out of policy ever again. Yes. You and I have to have a conversation. Mark, join in. Thank you. Any new business for this evening? Any other business? Any new business? Okay, with that in mind.
Madam Chair, there being no further business before this board, I move that we adjourn.
Seconded.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you very much. We are adjourned at 7:54 this evening.